One of Tesla's greatest advantages is the speed by which they move. The speed of innovation and the speed of manufacturing, combined with their strategy, has set Tesla up to be at this point impossible for others to catch up. Today, we'll explore why it might already be impossible for other automakers to catch up with full self-driving and robotaxi, why it might already be impossible for other bot makers to catch up with Tesla Bot, and why the network effect of both the robots on wheels and the robots with legs, and in the future, other robot form factors, will make it even harder for other companies to match what Tesla will be able to offer. Help me think this through is Larry Goldberg. Thank you so much, Larry, for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Herbert. And, you have to think about the software support for these initiatives and how the software is, such a unified environment. So it encompasses all embodied functionality, both in the car and in the bot, and how they feed each other. And, it is a situation where that leadership is going to lead to emergent functions, emergent capabilities of this embodied AI. So the leadership is both in the technical design, in the manufacture, in the software, the integration, and the business model. Tesla owns the customer. All the other OEMs don't own the customer. And so, the ability to deliver this kind of embodied AI, and I think we're going to see the same thing happen in the robot world. In the bot world, we're going to see Tesla forming these close relationships with these industrial companies in terms of the use cases, the application, the design of the bot, the functionality of the bot. It's very exciting. Now, a lot of other bot companies are emerging, but you have to think about whether they have the embodied AI that they've developed in-house that is augmented by the embodied AI already in the vehicle. It's really, really hard to emulate that kind of, capability. So,
yeah. The reason I'm bringing this topic up is one of the hot topics that's happening on X right now, mostly by these, Wall Street analysts, is they're saying, oh, competition's coming. We just watched NVIDIA. We just heard NVIDIA announce that they're going to provide 3 kinds of computer systems for any automaker. They partner with 17 automakers. And so these analysts are saying, I saw one post, somebody said, when is other automakers going to be able to catch up to Tesla's full self-driving? And somebody said 15 minutes after Tesla achieves it, meaning to say that as soon as Tesla achieves it, other car companies will just copy it and replicate it and be able to then redo it. And it's funny. And there's those analysts out there who still believe that competition's coming and that Tesla won't own the whole place, or not even like this notion that they won't own 100% of it. None of us are saying that, but we're saying that they will own most because of network effects, because once they improve to a certain level and others are trying to catch up to that level, they're going to be further ahead and then they'll never catch up again. And what you just said at the very beginning is a good way to make sure everybody's level set, is that Tesla has not only the 7 million cars, but they also have, and they've announced it, right? 50,000 bots next year, 100,000 bots next year, then 1 million next year. And so what other company, by the time that Tesla's got, let's say 10 million embodied AI out there capturing all that data, maybe the others might be only at 1 million or something like that. So can you speak a little bit to this idea that, why is it that maybe Hyundai can do it, right? Because Hyundai is partnered with Boston Dynamics. They have both a car and bots. You've got the Chinese. Everybody thinks that they never underestimate them. They're fast at manufacturing. They're fast at copying. And I interviewed Keith. Did you see that interview I did with Keith Fitzgerald? And he said the joke in the industry is that it's Michael Dunn. I interviewed Michael Dunn, and he said the joke in the industry is R&D in China means receive and duplicate. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, receive and duplicate at the hardware level is possible. Receive and duplicate in the software level is a little bit more challenging, although the Chinese have shown, very great skill in software development, very great skill. I mean, pretty impressive. But, it's really, really hard to emulate the the environment that Tesla's created in terms of embodied AI. I mean, they own embodied AI in the car. They're supposed to be competitors. There aren't competitors. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people who are driving with LiDAR. The Chinese are beginning to get rid of the LiDAR, but right now it's unclear that they'll be able to do it at scale yet. So I think we'll see Tesla lead this market very significantly. In China, it could well be that we have strong competition for Tesla, but the market there is so large that I'm not sure it matters. But
Exactly.
in the US, I can't see anybody reaching Tesla's level. I mean, they haven't got anywhere near FSD yet. None of them. Not even close. How are they going to catch up 15 minutes after Tesla invents it, perfects it? I mean, my car is about as perfect as it gets. I've just driven 1,500 miles with it. And, I'm a guy of 78. I did this in 2 days, 1,500 miles in 2 days. It was like a snap. I couldn't do this in another car. It would be, I don't know how it could be done. So nobody's begun to emulate it here in the United States. I just can't see it being done.
Yeah. People say Waymo is ahead because they've got actual commercial robotaxi. Yeah. They've got 700 cars. Let's say that they solved full self-driving. Let's go ahead and just play that thought experiment out. They've solved it. They've got it. They're the same. They match what Tesla's able to do. Okay, you have 700 cars. Well, now you need to make millions. Who's going to do it for you? Okay, now they partner with BYD. BYD is going to create that. When are these millions of cars coming out? It's going to take them a couple of years. They have to design them. They have to roll them out, or they have to integrate them into this, their current cars. That will take time. By the time they do that, how far ahead is Tesla already? Because they already have 7 million, and they'll have 10 million, and then they'll be building millions of cybercabs. So in 2 or 3 years, they've got a 15, 20 million car.
Are you sure it's BYD that?
I'm just throwing out. No, I'm just throwing out these ideas. I'm just throwing out I'm just picking what if the largest, most incredible, Chinese automaker that can make the most cars ever partnered. I'm just playing around this thought experiment. You know what I mean?
We'll have to pay 100% duty on those cars, right?
Right. And then, but you know what I mean? The idea, even if BYD said, I'm going to do it, I'm going to implement your Waymo technology, it will take them at least a year, if not 2, to create the new car. And they don't have any cars out there today that have it, unlike a Tesla, that can take the 7 million by next year, it'll be 10 million,
Yeah, I mean, the Waymo, the current Waymo vehicle is not really scalable, and they've proven that. I mean, they've hit, the level of FSD they needed, but they're not scaling it, and they're not scaling it for a very good reason. They've tried to buy a cheaper car. They've ordered some of the cheaper cars, but they're still way, I mean, it's like a factor of 2 or 3 times the Tesla price. And so I think the rollout is going to be very constrained. Otherwise, the capital they'd need, for that is just incredible. Compare that to Tesla, where, this car is going to cost less than a third of the price of the Waymo car. So how are you going to compete with that? How are you going to compete with that? I mean, and then they still have to roll out city by city because they have to map the city and so on and so forth. They're going to have to change their business, not their business model, their technical model. They're going to have to go to vision. They're going to have to abandon the LiDAR. They're going to have to go to vision. They're going to have to use, a much, much, much less expensive car. This is a long-term cycle. It's not going to be a cycle where they can replicate it overnight.
I want to, in a segment later, we're going to talk about what happens when you have network effects, when you have millions of FSD Tesla cars. By the time that another vendor is able to match it, let's say the same, but at that point, the more cars that are networked together that have, better, we'll talk about that brainstorm. But meantime, let's switch to bots. Although, like you said, they're all bots anyways, same thing. But let me share with you what CERN Basher put together. This is CERN's original ramp, which turned out to be exactly what Elon just said in terms of their expectation. 2025, maybe in 1,000 number of bots produced. Next year, it's going to be 50 to 100,000 bots. Then the following year, 500 to 1 million bots, right? This is what he said, 2025, 26, and 27. This is actually Elon's comments, and this is lower bound, so maybe 1 to 5,000 bots this year, 50,000 next year, 500,000 the following year. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you follow this through, that's the lower bound of his estimates. Which other vendor, by the way, here's a list of all of, as many of the human bot market that we know of. We've been following this closely. And the top here are American and European, kind of Western kind of bot makers. And down here, all the red is all the Chinese. So there's lots of humanoid bot market kind of competitors. And then we're trying to track where each one of them are in this stage of milestones and how many of their, who's ahead and who can make. But my point is that there's lots. But let's say that Tesla does make 50,000 to 100,000 of bots next year. Who can do this next year? Who can do? And by the time that another bot manufacturer makes, 10,000 or 100, by the time that another bot maker is making 100,000, Tesla might already be at 500,000 or a million. And then each year, Tesla's already, because it's a scale of 10. Because it's a scale of 10 each year, it's almost impossible at this point for another bot maker to catch up. You know what I'm saying? Like by the time I make 100,000, you've made a million. By the time I make a million, you've made 10 million. So that 1 year difference could actually be like impossible for another market maker to catch up.
I think it's not going to be manufacturing that distinguishes Tesla's lead. I think it's going to be software.
Okay. Yeah, but it's part and parcel, isn't it? Because if Tesla is able to make 100,000 bots next year, and the other competitors only make 10,000, those 100,000 bots are learning tasks, and every time one bot learns one task, all the bots have it. And they have all the video, right? Like whenever pouring cup, or what does it look like when I'm holding a tennis racket, or what does it look like when I'm holding a drill? All of those videos are feeding it. So by that amount of lead is exponential compared to what you're able to capture. And then that's how you get the skills.
Yeah, I mean, the network effect in the bot world is going to be very significant. But, a lot of people are going to want to wall their garden off and have their bots limited in terms of what it shares with the fleet. So, but I mean, there's no doubt that Tesla's bots are going to have a significant software advantage, which is going to lead to a production advantage, and they're going to have the automation advantage. So, just as they've led the vehicle business, I think they're going to lead the bot business. But the TAM of the bot is just so large. It is so massively large that the backlog, by year 3, 4, or 5, the backlog is just going to be gigantic. So we're going to see a lot of people running, jumping into the market. We're going to see a lot of failures along the way. It's going to be pretty chaotic. I think Tesla stand a really good chance of being, the leader in the pack and maintaining that leadership, both here and, strangely enough, in China. I think the leadership that, they have demonstrated in their vehicle and in the vehicle software and in the vehicle pricing is going to, continue to lead them in the bot world. People point to BYD and say, well, BYD is the leader. But if you look at the dollars, no, Tesla's EV, the two models they've got, responsible for a very large proportion of BYD's business volumes, and the dollar value of the profits far exceed that of BYD. So I think we'll see the same thing play out in the bot space.
What's your position, Larry, on this idea of bot making bots? So some people are saying, right? Imagine in this particular case, you are trying to make 1 million bots, but if bots makes bots, then you're just always ahead in terms of your acceleration of how cheap you can make it, how fast you can make it. Having said that, though, Scott Walter kind of we're asking him, and he was saying, actually, we're not so sure that bots will be needing to make bots, because a bot is like, think of a cell phone. You don't have how many humans are needed to put together the cell phone. I don't know where I land on this, by the way. I'm curious to know.
No.
Do you need humans, or can it all be, like these industrial robots that mass produce these parts and then connect them all automated? You think that there's going to be a lot of humans required, and if there's humans required, then a bot can replace humans, and then therefore bots get input. Yeah.
Have you seen the Chinese cell phone factories?
Yeah, and I've seen those. Yeah, everybody with the hats and and they're like
a huge number of humans. Number of humans. We haven't. There are very few manufactured parts that are manufactured goods that are manufactured entirely with industrial robots, and the humans that they use, many of them, but not all of them, can be replaced. A fair percentage of them can be replaced by bots, humanoid bots. So I think that bots will still be manufactured with a mixture of bots, of industrial robots, bots, and humans for a while, for a good while. And humans will adopt more and more a supervisory role. Bots will be the worker bees. So I think ultimately, I think Scott's right, but I think it's going to take time for us to get to that ultimate point. Remember,
you've convinced me. Yeah.
Remember that automation is the very last step.
Yeah, you said that in the last show. That's right. Okay. So then let's talk about the network effects, right? So the theme of this show was it's obviously it's a little bit of exaggeration, right? But it might already be impossible for other companies to catch up. And one of the reasons is network effects. So it's not only the volume of how fast you can manufacture something, and then we already kind of slightly touched on that the more bots you have, the more vision you have, the more data you have. And of course, by the way, a whole other conversation is who can catch up with the compute and how big a supercomputer and all the chips that you can have to be able to digest all of that video data and all that data that you're getting. What about the network effects? What happens when, and again, you said at the beginning, these are all bots, including cars, using the same full self-driving. Full self-driving is really full self, what was the word? Full, for bots themselves, the full self
embodiment, full self embodiment.
But you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. Full self-driving, full self-task, whatever. They're all the same software, and the more you have, but the network effects. What are the network effects? Why a company that has 1 million of these is better than a company that only has 100,000?
Well, the ability of the bots to instantly share that skill is very important, as long as they're networked back to the mothership, as it were. And I'm sure there will be localized compute. In fact, I think there has to be localized compute, because I think to put all that compute power into the bot would be more than difficult. It would be crazy, because it's going to use a lot of battery, and some people are doing that, and I think it's going to be a failure. I personally think it's not going to work to put all of the compute into the bot itself. I think you want some localized compute power, and then you'll have to have, a supercomputer in the background as well. So the more bots you've got, the more you can share that knowledge and the more skills that the bot can get. And then they're going to be emergent properties of botness. So the more bots you have, the stronger your competitive position. But frankly, I think the demand for bots are going to be so great that there's going to
Yeah.
be business for everybody.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And then, so what the other bot makers are doing, NVIDIA said that we have 14 humanoid robot partners. And what they're doing is, they're positioning themselves as NVIDIA is like the Android, right? Where these 14, they all make their own. They may not be able to make as many as Tesla can, but they can all share and they can, as a group, become one. They didn't say that, but I'm just assuming that that was one possible approach here.
Well, let's look at NVIDIA's record in full self-driving.
Mm-hmm.
Why did Tesla not use NVIDIA's computer? You know why?
No.
Price, many times, I think 10 to 15 times the cost of Tesla producing their own computer, and energy usage. So every automaker using NVIDIA has to pay that price and has to use that energy. And that's the reason why NVIDIA users have not really made that leap, the kind of leaps that Tesla have made. So you have to think about the bot. You have to think about the NVIDIA computer. You have to think about energy use, and you have to think about, memory use. And if that goes the same way as the car, you're not buying a lot of value by putting that NVIDIA computer in there. You're paying a heavy price. It seems to me that Tesla is spending something in the order of less than 20% of what it would cost them to put in an NVIDIA computer, even if it's 40%, of what the difference is gigantic. And when it comes to the bot, it's going to be very, very significant. So does it pay to buy the NVIDIA chip and share with all the other bot makers? Maybe, but I think you're starting from a start line that's significantly further back than Tesla starting from.
Yeah. I've take a look at this again. This chart here. Like which of these companies here are actually manufacturing companies, right?
Yeah.
Of course, Tesla is. The figure is going to create their own, but they've never done it in the past ever, but they've created their own. They're going to do it on their own. Everyone else here, they're partnering with manufacturing companies like Magna.
Yeah.
But Boston Dynamics, you could argue that, they're owned by Hyundai. Maybe they would be able to do it. The Chinese, again, none of these guys are actually manufacturing companies. I mean, there's a few that are owned by, like Xiaomi, owned by a car company. So the reality is there's only really, let's say 3 of them, 5 of them maybe total that are actually manufacturing companies. The rest aren't. So what's your thinking about, again, is like nothing, not a big deal? Or is a huge lead if you are the manufacturer of your own, like you've got experience manufacturing versus just outsourcing it to another company to do it?
Yeah. It's a huge advantage. In theory, Hyundai should be able to do it, but it isn't clear how they've integrated Boston Dynamics into Hyundai and how that's going. That'd be interesting because in theory, they could achieve the similar kind of capability. And by the way, they've made some fairly impressive videos of their local electric bot, and they definitely have a lot of experience. But yeah, I mean, this is Tesla's race to lose because they've got all the components, they've got Elon Musk, and we've seen this movie before many times. So I'm very, very comfortable that they're in a very commanding position.
Last question for you, Larry. So what would happen? The biggest risk for Tesla is key man risk. And something happened to Elon, right? He leaves, decides to not do it anymore. He dies, whatever. Or today, if that happens in the next month or so, what would happen to Tesla's bot business and robotaxi business? Is it done, over with? Are they going to still continue? Or is it like what happened to Steve Jobs? Right, Steve Jobs died. Tim Cook comes in, but he'd already invented the iPhone. They'd already set up the App Store. They've already have everything, and then so it just became much more of take what we've built and scale and grow. And that's why they just grew like crazy, exponential growth after Steve Jobs passed away. Is that where we're at today, or do you think that this could be an issue?
I don't think we're there. I don't think we're there.
Interesting.
There are too
Why
many,
do you say that?
Too many nascent businesses. Too many nascent businesses. You know, Tesla said, Elon said that they're in this transition year. And now we're in, the tsunami is coming. Transition's taken place. Everything's in place. Now it's execution. Well, yeah, but every single one of these execution arms, execution journeys have very significant risk. And the biggest risk of all is not pursuing it, through the tough times, through the production health, through the transition into the business model, through the hell. And the guy that will drive them to go through the hell is Elon Musk. Who else in the management would have the moral suasion to drive that company through that hell? I don't know of anybody. As fantastic as the people at Tesla are, and they are fantastic, I don't see that leadership emerging. I don't know. Maybe they'd have to bring in, one of the guys that what? It is such a risky situation if we lose Elon that I'm not prepared to project that we're at the point that we're going to see it through. And it's not a matter of leadership. I think there are great leaders there. It's a matter of corporate courage. So I think the board would start relenting. I think the pressures from Wall Street will start bringing to bear, the analysts will start. I mean, it just so many risks, which while Elon is there, he just plows on regardless. So I think there is risk. Significant risk.
Okay, there you go. So they're ahead. We agreed with that. May not be impossible to catch up because it's almost there. We're almost there. But things can happen that can derail it. Okay. I'm thinking that personally, I agree with you now, of course, but I'm still at the point where I'm thinking that the bot is in the third design. They're planning for mass production. The cars are well taken care of by Tom Ju. The robotaxi is, Ashok Goswami. None of these are going to stop if something happened to Elon. But the question is, can they grow as fast? That's the
I think the question is, where does the corporate courage come from? Where does the courage come from not to stop one of these programs, not to pay out that $30 billion in share buybacks? Where does the courage come from?
Oh, God, please don't.
Serious? No, I'm being deadly serious.
I know.
Deadly serious.
It's a battle.
The day that Elon's not there, the advertising will start, the marketing will start. We will fall back into the playbook, the Wall Street playbook.
Typical Wall Street playbook. Yeah. Share buybacks for shareholders. That's what matters. Interesting. Oh, man. Great conversation. Really appreciated you doing this with me. You're fantastic, Larry. Just great. Love your thinking. Folks, follow him on his X account. Tesla Larry.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.